one of the areas that I find a lot of people have issues with, and I'm going to have Josh kind of turn this way, is it's just this whole, LPHC, right? This like lumbo-pelvic hip complex. A lot of people coming in with low back pain, talking about hip tightness, so it's such a common area. And I think really even just by focusing on a couple of simple things, not to generalize for every client, but I feel like there's some benefit to be had by better understanding, right? You think about this bucket of water that is the hips. And if we've got water spilling out the front, the back, we've got something that's, way too tight or something that's not firing, maybe those are where people are getting some issues. Either A, maybe they're just not moving efficiently. If they're an athlete, maybe we're missing out on some strength and power, and maybe it puts them at a greater risk for some pain or an injury. One of those areas being for a lot of people, tighter hip flexors, right? A lot of people in that seated position. So understanding that's an area that, maybe we want to do a little bit more focused mobilization. That might mean, dropping Josh down to the ground and having him go through, some isolated psoas, mobilization and stretches before we get into our training program. Again, it doesn't have to be the entire focus of what we do, but having him do some things like this before I throw him into a loaded lunge pattern in our training session probably means he's not going to feel as much strain in that area, and maybe we're just going to make sure we're in a little better position, where he's able to get into a good range of motion on that back leg. Right, so for someone with that hip flexor, maybe they need some massage foam rolling. Every client's going to be different. Then outside of that, a lot of times we think, hey, we're having pain in this low back. Trying to understand, a lot of people are also tightening throughout the hips, right? So understanding the hip mobility and just doing a couple basic things. Maybe it's, have them do a little bit of some sort of foam rolling, softball, whatever it is, based on how comfortable you are, and then getting them in some positions where we're going to have to work that too, right? So I may have Josh go through some alternating pigeon stretches where he spends just a couple seconds on each side before we get into those training sessions, right? Before I throw him into a squat pattern. And, easy way to know is like if it helps him get into a better position and I can visually see that, well, then it's something I'm going to continue to do. If I don't see a big difference, he doesn't feel a big difference, then maybe it's not worth our time, because everyone's going to be a little different on that side. But I think when it comes to the corrective exercise and understanding the hips, right, it really is breaking down and understanding where might someone be a little bit too tight, where they're lacking some range of motion, then knowing, that might impact other muscles, right, like firing the glutes. So maybe on top of that, with the hip flexor stretch, a little bit of glutes, then we're going to have him flip onto his back and maybe do some bridges. Right? So for many clients you work with, it doesn't have to be super complicated, even just the movements that we do, just basic understanding of what's going on here. Try to get them to, maybe get a little better range of motion in those things that are lacking it, and then make sure we're firing up those muscles that, maybe all day long aren't firing.